Today is really special and it's been in the making for quite a while. I want to introduce you all to Laura Benedict. Laura, hello.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here with you, Meg.
I'm
Thanks.
so excited to be here. I know in the world of camera, normally we would be looking, I need to be looking at the camera, but I want to see your beautiful face. So if you see me looking
Oh,
down,
sure, sure,
I'm
sure.
looking at you. Okay.
Make sure we got plenty of light.
Oh,
There
you're
we go.
beautiful. So Laura, where are we talking to you? What part of the world are you in today?
We live in Southern Illinois,
Okay.
which I don't know if we are nowhere near Chicago.
Okay.
We're like 6 hours south of Chicago, way close to Kentucky. We are actually closer to Little Rock, Arkansas than we are Chicago.
Isn't that
And
amazing? Okay.
my husband teaches, we came here 14 years ago from Virginia, and he teaches at SIU Carbondale, Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. So
I,
that's what we're doing here.
I have a radio background. I'm detecting a little accent. So am I hearing a bit of a Southern accent maybe?
Yeah, kind of a little bit. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and
How,
um,
how do you properly say it? Because I only hear it in the movies.
Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah, Louavul.
Louisville. Okay, okay.
Louisville, that's right. And it's funny you should talk about radio. I when I moved from Kentucky, I went to Missouri, to St. Louis, and I actually worked at the public radio station,
Very cool.
KWMU, and they made so much fun of me for my accent that they like beat it out of me. And the funny thing is, people always made fun, I remember, of Hillary Clinton, like getting in front of an Arkansas audience, and then she would kind of fall into the accent, and it's like, that is so natural. If
Okay.
I go to the South, or if I'm in Kentucky or Virginia, my voice changes. It just, I think it's just human.
Perfect segue into the world of social media. We are going to talk today about your book, namely The Stranger Inside. I have a lot to say to you about this book.
Oh,
So
good.
good, so good. But before that, I want to know from your perspective, Laura, what's it like being a writer in 2020 in the world of social media? And certainly in the last 6 months, the world has
Mhm.
really shifted to be online. Where does social media fit in with your world?
Oh, that's such a good question, because it's been in a state of flux.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Most writers, when they're not addicted to social media, as I have been in the distant past, they spend more time there when a book's coming out,
Yep.
and when they're procrastinating from their work.
Yep. Mhm.
And so, 2019, and the very big, 2019 February was when The Stranger Inside came out, and the paperback February 2020. And so I maintained a presence, and, I had fun. I discovered Instagram,
Right.
and I adored Instagram.
Ooh.
I was just a fan. And so I spent a lot of time on there, but I got very involved in book promotions,
Yes.
because book promotion is so big on Instagram now.
It really is. And I'm on your Instagram. I just found you and you are here. There you are. Yep.
There I am. And it's, I found myself getting so wrapped up in everybody's releases and what other people were doing, and it just was so intense. And then when COVID came, it got even more intense, because I was hearing, not from my publisher, because I was just had the paperback, um, but from people's publishers. They're like, oh yes, you need to get on there, and you need to like interview yourself, and you need to be on there every day. I'm just like, I felt so bad. I mean, I felt really bad for people who had books coming out, you know, the
Oh,
the second 6 months of this year. it's been a nightmare for them. And so everybody's trying to promote everybody else. Absolutely. But it just, for me, social media, because I'm kind of an introvert anyway, and I tend to I have ADHD too. So I would find myself, my emotions would be up and down with social media. And so I really had to back off. I took a clue from a good friend of mine who might be JT Ellison, and
We
who
love her.
handed over her passwords to her assistant, you
Mhm.
know, so she can stay off and get some work done. And I gave my passwords to my husband.
Good.
So I just got off, and I have to say, for me, it was good, because I started doing yoga more. I
Yeah.
started reading more,
Mhm.
and I stopped worrying about what other people were thinking of what I was putting out there.
It is, oh, that's such a great statement because it's so easy to get down that rabbit hole
Mhm.
and you check your messages and do, I call it the sweep. So you start with your feed and then your notifications and your stories and then you're checking Facebook and it's it's a double-edged sword, don't you find?
It can be, I can see why some people get depressed,
Mm,
you know, and if you're insecure at all, I mean, it just builds into those insecurities. I just watched a Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. But you know, my college age son, who is learning at home now, and my husband, who teaches at a university, we watched it the other night, and I think we probably stopped it. It's an hour and a half long. We probably stopped it 6 or 7 times to talk about what we were seeing on screen, because it had so much of an
my
impact.
heart, I would not want to be a 15 or a 17-year-old girl right
Oh,
now.
oh, for so many reasons.
Can you imagine growing up right now?
I
I
I, I
uh,
can't.
we didn't. I'm 48. We didn't have cell phones. There were
Nope.
pay phones if you had to call home, but once you left and you went out, that was it. You were gone. If you
Yes.
if you were bullied, bullying stopped when school finished.
Yes. Yes. When you
Ugh.
got off the bus, so, you know, or whatever. And gosh, I'm 58, so I'm 10 years older. So we had even less of that. But I have to tell you that if there had been social media when I was a teenager,
No, my girlfriend and I say we'd still be in jail. Literally, we would still be in prison.
I'm so glad, because you know, things live on the internet forever.
Oh, they do. And as an author, as a writer, is that is that tough for you? Do you read your own everything? Do you go to Goodreads? Do you read the reviews? Do
Oh,
you do all
what a
that?
good question. That's another thing where, you know, I published my first novel, Isabella Moon, in 2007.
Mhm.
So I've been around kind of a long time. And I used to read my reviews, and people would tell me, don't read your reviews. But I'm like, I want to know if they like me.
Uh-huh. I
But, but of course, the reviews we all tend to focus on are the negative reviews, right?
the only ones you focus on.
The
Mm.
only ones you focus on. So I learned to stay away. It took me so long to stay away, because I don't have any control over what people think of my work. And, you know, I mean, I have opinions about books. You know, I don't put out negative opinions about people's books.
Nice.
You know, if I don't feel good enough about a book to leave a good review, I just don't.
Now, your bio states 7 suspense novels. Are we more than 7 now, or are we?
I think 8. I think The Stranger Inside was number 8.
What's your process when you write the book?
Okay.
What's your process?
Um, I am pretty visual,
Mhm.
so I generally have a scene in my mind. and
Okay.
I just start with that scene
Okay.
and kind of blow it up from there. I see a character, a main character, or I see a situation, or like there'll be like a news story or something, and it's like that concept will just stick with me,
Okay.
right? And so then I really the my best books I think are when I just really start writing and fleshing that out.
Right.
I'm not an outliner. I
Okay.
have tried to do outlines, and I guess the stranger inside, no. Small Town Trouble, which is my cozy cat
Yes.
book.
Mhm.
My friend Carolyn Haynes owns the series, and she got several women. It's still going on, the Trouble, the Black Cat Detective series. Carolyn, because it's her series, and I just did it for fun because I'd never written a cozy. I read cozies like crazy.
So do I.
And I thought, can I do this? Can I write something where nothing scary happens?
I love it.
And so,
Will
so
I just inevitably go there?
right. And I found I didn't have to work too hard not to do it. I just said I'm going to have fun with this. Um, but Carolyn, because it is her series and because there are so many of those books, she needed, and she actually started out in Harlequin days
Okay.
when you
Yep.
really had to have outlines and the story laid out. And so I did that for her, and it was a unique experience. But doing my own books, of course came up with the plot, but she wanted point by point by point. And I was just like, I can't do this. She's like, yes, you can.
What an experience for you, though, to try it a different way, right?
Yes. So I did it a little bit with The Stranger Inside, but I really, I guess you could call me a pantser. I really prefer to have a goal in the future and to not necessarily know how it's going to end.
Okay.
Because if I sit down, and I've talked to a couple other writers who are more pantsers, if I sit down and make an outline, then that means I have thought through the whole process of the book.
Hmm.
And my brain says, you've done that, you're done.
Right.
And so I feel like I lose that sort of specialness. Well, specialness isn't a good word. That serendipity and spontaneity that can come when you're not trying to write to a certain end.
I think that makes great sense. And I am certainly not a writer, but I feel like I would fall into that camp as
Mm-hmm.
well, because I think there's something to be said for the discovery of it as you go. And something will come in and you think, oh, what about this? And do you ever get and I will quote or reference my chat with JT.
Mm-hmm.
She said that she sometimes will get really far down the line and then have to go back and redo parts. Are you ever in that world where you think, uh-oh, now I've got to go back and change a whole bunch of stuff?
I think every writer ends up having to do that at some point because, you come on a revelation
Mm,
and it's like, oh, that's really important. Now I have to go back and, make sure that can happen.
right.
Absolutely. Um, and I actually kind of like that. But I remember listening to somebody years ago, and it's just one of those bad writer advice things where they said, you should never, I could just really tell when a writer, comes along something in the end and they go back and they change it. It's like, no, I don't think you really can.
Right. Right. I don't think so.
Because sometimes it happens very naturally, and if it's born in the story on page 175, it's still part of the story, you
Wild.
know and you can go back and put it in. And JT is a really, really amazing reviser. I we tend to kind of go on each other's journeys. We talk out our stories a lot. And she's a remarkable writer anyway, but her revising skills just blow me away.
Do you write for a certain amount of hours a day? Like, do you say to yourself, this is my full-time job. I'm going to sit at my desk from this time to this time? Like, how does
Mhm.
that work as an author?
Well, for me, my ADHD has been a huge challenge that way.
Give it
I
to-
mean, sometimes you asked about, what the process is, like giving birth to books. I automatically forget. It freaks me out. I'm like, I have 8 books and tons of stories and, anthologies. It's like, who did that? Did I
That's
do that?
amazing.
I mean, but it's like I hear people, forget giving birth, right? Because it's so painful. And I think
Hope we
that's
can do it again.
right, right. I mean, the universe wants us to have more children. So, so we forget. So I kind of think of books, I kind of think of books that way, that I go back and I'm like, oh, I have to do it again. How do I do it? And I always forget how I did it. So I am not, I really suck at sitting down for office hours. Um, and actually today, and COVID has been really hard
we
on,
we talked about, JT and I talked about that. I also talked to John Mars, author John Mars, who is a friend from Britain, and it, right around when it all hit, and we all three separately, but we all said, oh my gosh, this has been so hard creatively to, I wasn't even reading for a while, and I
right.
devour books. So it's been hard on so many fronts,
Mhm.
so many fronts.
Well, it's been, it's just been, it's weird because as writers, we're actually supposed to be used to
Right?
sitting in our
Sure,
rooms and
sure.
not doing anything. But, all of a sudden it's like when I'm forced to be here,
Mhm.
it's kind of irritating. And just the uncertainty,
Yeah.
uncertainty is hard to work in, I mean, and I'm so amazed by all the people, the healthcare workers and the, sanitation workers and, the cops and the, people who work in restaurant, who are able to work in restaurants,
Right.
who go to work every day. And, in the middle of this, and I'm sitting here going, oh, it's so hard to write.
I know, but it still is, and it's okay to say that. I know.
I just stopped. And I have a book going, and now I'm scheduling my office hours and going back to business,
Okay.
because writing is a business.
Yep.
And, I want to produce more work,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, so I have to have hours now, and I'm doing some new things, but we can talk about that whenever you want.
I like that, and I like your honesty a lot, because I think that sometimes, we buy a book online or go to the store and purchase a book, and you don't really always know the process that goes into it, or how long this took the author to write. And it is a process, and I think it's
Mhm.
probably a real emotional journey. I would think at the end of a book there is a period of time where you're like, I don't know, maybe that was it for me, I don't think I can do this anymore, and then you do it again, obviously. um do you have any rituals, any fun rituals when you finish a book? Do you celebrate in any way?
Generally, I clean my house.
That's so okay. You said that. John Mars said he goes to one store and buys a new pen. I'm like, what is wrong?
And I make a really nice dinner for my family. And because my attention is just, it is like giving birth, and you're taking care of the baby, and then and then later when you go on and you have to edit it,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't feel like it's done until the editor says it's done.
Right.
I mean, there's the thrill of having the draft, whatever draft it is that gets it to the editor. That's a thrill. But when the editor says it's done and the copy editing is done, then I might go shopping.
Good for you. Good for you. What's an Edgar and ITW Thriller Award? Because you're a winner in both
Oh,
departments.
well, I'm a nominee.
Okay. Still,
I didn't win, but it is seriously an honor to be nominated.
right?
The Edgar Awards are given by the Mystery Writers of America.
Wow.
They let's just say Louise Penny has won several of them. And they have usually 5 nominees in every category every year. And when you think about how much is, how many books that are out there, and I've judged these categories as well. And in fact, that's where I read my first Louise Penny book in 2009 when I judged the best novel category. So, and then International Thriller Writers has a similar where they have like 5 nominees. So I'm so proud that, my work, those were both short stories, where they kind of rose to the top and were recognized. And so I claim that very proudly.
Do you have a story, a short story that has stuck with you your whole life? Something that you, right out of the gate, maybe it was something you learned or read in school, or as you were just becoming an avid reader yourself? Is there anything you remember that you love? Because I've got one that I will never forget, ever.
Well, I hate to be stereotypical, particularly since I kind of write, I write suspense and sometimes horror, is Shirley Jackson's The Lottery.
Okay, I'm about to literally lose my mind. Laura, that is mine.
That's your story. It's the best short story ever.
Okay, can I hijack this just really quickly and tell you?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, that's insane. This is why I knew we would get along. So I was in grade 11 and I was taking a top level English class where we got to deep dive way deeper into things. And I remember walking into my class, grade 11 or 11th grade English, and the teacher at the time, who was also a drama teacher, he said, I have some news, and unfortunately it's not the best news. And we all thought, uh-oh. And he said, we've gone through the lists, and unfortunately there isn't enough space for all of you to be in this class. So unfortunately, we are going to just draw a name, and whoever's name we draw can't be in this class. So of course, we're all sweating, and he pulls my name and he said, Megan, unfortunately, we're going to have to transfer you out. So of course, probably not the best reaction. I went, what? Well, my father works here. And I got really upset. And he let it go, and I had to leave the room, and then pulled me back in the room after about 20 minutes. He said, just come back in. We'll figure something out. And I sat down, and then very quietly, he walked a copy of The Lottery around to all of the students in the class. And he said, you're not being removed from this class, and now we are going to begin the lottery. And then we talked about, like, how did I feel when that happened? Obviously I wasn't stoned to death, but
like, are they gonna stone her?
But that story will haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yes, it's the perfect story. I mean, it has everything, and you go back and read it, and it is so simple. And that's the magic of it. It's so simple yet so horrific.
Horrific.
And the way that the people accept it is.
Did you get a little bit? So now here we are, 2020. Handmaid's Tale kind of goes in those directions too, with the whole, that's the kind of horror, and that's the kind of writing, and that it's hard to read, but it stays with you forever. Do you have a problem going there? Because your books sometimes get a little, how do you go there?
Well, it's hard because, I find myself observing that stuff, and, I have bad feelings sometimes. and I would never act out on them.
Sure.
But, I think other people do too. And so I don't feel, I'm always surprised when I go somewhere and other people are surprised I went there, I'm like, oh, I thought everybody thought
That's not normal.
you know, and just the horror of everyday people and everyday thoughts and everyday society. I mean not even sort of, looking at the news, but I mean we can look at, our interpersonal relationships, at church or Rotary or whatever, and you see people, they have very dark sides and they aren't always obvious, but they're insidious.
Such a good word. Stranger inside. Stranger inside. Let's go there. I could talk to you for 12 hours. So let's talk about the stranger inside. And first, before we jump into it, one of my best friends growing up was Jennifer Tuttle. So that just when I saw
I
that,
love it. Oh my gosh, that's
I saw it. And I texted her, I said, okay, dude, you're gonna die. Like, you're literally, Jennifer Tuttle is in the book I'm reading right now. So how did you get the story idea for The Stranger Inside? Because I did not see those twists. I thought I did, but I did not see them coming.
I am possibly the most paranoid person I know.
Okay.
In fact, just last night, I dreamed about a home invasion. And I woke up freezing and terrified. And I have dreams about people kind of being, I wish I could show you the outside, but we have a very long driveway that comes in front of the house. And I always have dreams about people trying to get inside, almost zombie-like. So I haven't dreamed of actual zombies, but they're zombie-like. But people trying to get into my house all the time, or camping out. I had one dream where it was like a hillside full of tents, and I knew there were people in there, but I couldn't see them.
Isn't your psyche saying that you're famous and it's really just paparazzi in all these tents and they really just want more interviews from you?
I love
my brain goes.
I so wish I had that thought, because for me, it's like I feel like people are watching me all the time and I'm doing something wrong.
Does this give you, are you always churning for ideas for new books because of these?
Because sometimes I just literally have to turn it off because it gets kind of scary.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, but when I thought of not being able to get into the house, because, I don't know, people who have garages, you have a garage, it's like you pull into the garage, is somebody already in my garage?
I always worry about that.
If somebody, and I did that, I forget what book I did that in. That's in Isabel Moon.
Right.
Yeah, that's in Isabel Moon. And I just thought about, going, what would it be like if you couldn't get into your house? And I had read many news stories about people whose houses were occupied by strangers, like that broke in when the house was on the market, and they can't get them out. And, I would read those stories and be like, because my house, I'm a Cancer, the astrological sign Cancer, and we're very, or ostensibly, and I am, but very much homebodies. And, my home is really an extension of me. And so when I talk about a house, I write about haunted houses, and houses are my, what's that word? I can't think of it, but I do houses.
Houses are your jam.
Houses are my jam. So it's like, if somebody takes you away, if you're invested in your house and somebody takes it away. So that's where it came from. Just sort of my paranoia.
Well, the book itself, and we can go into it, but it's about Kimber Hannon, and she goes away, in a nutshell, this is what I would say. She goes away for a couple of days. When she comes home, there's somebody else basically living in her house and claiming that this is not her house. So I think I kind of read the back and thought, is this a case of either did someone steal her identification? Is she, what is, but then it just unravels and there's so many layers. How did you come up with the characters? Were they inspired by people you know? Like how did we get to Kimber and Gabriel and Diana and Jennifer Tuttle?
I love Jenny. She's just so fun. Well, the Kimber is really kind of the worst part of myself.
Okay.
and and sometimes I get so much feedback, and particularly the reviews I have read where they're like, Kimber was just like the most unlikable person ever.
I didn't get that.
Well,
Flawed, but aren't we all?
She's very flawed. But I hope she learns something by the end.
Right.
But Kimber is somebody who, she has a real history of being selfish, but she also has a lot of guilt.
Yes.
And guilt can work one way or another. If you have done terrible things in your life, either you spend the rest of your life trying to compensate for them, or you feel guilty and just kind of go on with it and
Right.
just be the person you are. And well, I guess another way is to just be a sad and guilty person.
Right.
And I kind of think of Kimber as kind of sad and guilty and needy. She's very needy.
Mm-hmm.
And so she takes what she wants, because she needs it.
And I ask this, and it's a tough question, and I guess it's just because I also am quite visual. When I read a book, sometimes an actor pops into my head, or I think, if this were Netflix or if this were a movie. Have you been asked that question in this round of interviews? Like, if Kimber were to be played by an actress, would there be anyone that you could say, I could see her doing a really good job?
Oh, that's so hard.
I know. Okay, does she look like someone to you? And that's always what I think of in a book. When an author's writing, do they picture someone? Or are they just describing her, or do they actually see someone?
I kind of imagine her as like a Sharon Stone.
Oh,
She's kind of edgy and slender and fashionable, and pencil skirts and that sort of thing. And then part of her falling apart is she she kind of becomes less of that sort of person, because she's very ambitious. And the terrible thing is, because I'm so old, I don't, and I watch a lot of films, but I don't have my like actor references are not particularly contemporary.
That's okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I totally get that. And that isn't even when I'm watching or reading a book. I go all over the map too. I think it's and I love how I really love how you write. You're so descriptive. I get frustrated when I read a book where I have to really sort of stop reading and really still think about the character. But you have a really great gift of really describing them right down to the point where I immediately can just keep going with the story. So, and I could see her. I could definitely see that for sure.
Well, but the important thing is, I want that. The thing is, you have to, as a writer, you have to give a reader just enough to let them fill in their own imagination. Because I think everybody who reads a book, anybody who reads it, unless like an actress immediately pops to mind, it's implied in the story, everybody's going to have a different take on it.
What about titles? Do you pick the title? Do they pick the title? How does that work?
Well, generally speaking, I've had several different publishers. And the way it has pretty much always worked is I'll give them a list and they say yay or nay.
Okay.
And then often they'll come back and say, sometimes they'll come back and say, we don't like any of those.
Very
so,
much.
so, but The Stranger Inside, they came back and they're like, well, we like some of these titles, but we really like The Stranger Inside. And I was like, okay, I can, and I can live with that.
Good. So good.
Yeah.
What are your favorite movies? What are your favorite movies that may have shaped you into a writer? I know you mentioned Stephen King, or like, scary movies.
Oh, the Amityville Horror, absolutely. Ghost Story by Peter Straub. Do you know that book and film?
No, but here's the problem with me, Laura, is that I obsess over this stuff, and then my husband always says, then why do you read them and watch them? So I feel like I could probably attempt it, but I'm not a huge horror movie fan.
I gotcha. Well, I have to tell you, I have a very few that I adore and really shaped me. So, The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh.
And Richard Matheson's, which is also a film, Hell House.
Right.
Anything with Bela Lugosi, all the old scary films, but Rosemary's Baby. So, and what is the one with, I think it's called Don't Look Now, with the Donald Sutherland. With Donald Sutherland, I forget the actress, but they're looking for their little girl in Venice. And
No.
It's so scary. But
I can't do children. I can't do children.
Yeah,
and children and religion and cornfields. No.
Yes, Malachi. But I've never been a slasher movie film.
Okay.
I like dark suspense and I like ghosts. Give me ghost any day, but I slasher films are just not my thing.
And what's on we'll do some rapid fire. What's on your Netflix right now? What are you, when you do have some downtime, what would you do?
We loved Hannah. I don't know if you've seen
I need to finish that because
it's
love him.
Thriller. I like Knives Out.
Okay.
I think this is on Prime. It's called Line of Duty. I really love British cop shows. I just watched a horror film that I didn't think would be good. And it's a haunted house story, and it turned out to be good. It's called Alter. You don't want to watch it. It's too scary.
I won't, but my daughter, who's 25, you cannot scare her, and my sister, so I'll give it to them.
And don't laugh, but I have become a huge Columbo fan.
That's not funny. That's
Prime has Columbo, and the first season, he is so cool. The sets are so cool. I mean, it's brilliant. It is a brilliant, brilliant show.
I love for COVID. I don't love anything about COVID, but
right, sure.
I feel like we've all had the opportunity for at least a little bit to put things on pause and really kind of just without guilt binge on things and things. So for that, yes, I agree. What about food? What are your not so guilty pleasures? Are you a cook? What do you love?
I do cook, and I love to cook. I try to keep protein and veggie, center stage. But I'm a bread baker. I love to bake bread. But it's just all those carbs just aren't good for you. But I'm a sushi fiend, but would never make my own.
I don't think many people would make their own. I think that's tough, right?
It is tough, but no, I'm more of a baker than a cook, but I love to, when you've been cooking as long as I have, I've been cooking for 40 years, so I still use recipes for a lot of stuff, but, you can be creative. When you cook a lot, you can be creative with what you've got. But my craft now is embroidery and crewel work, and
you have patience. Then
so that's what I do. I brought a show and tell.
Oh my gosh, I love it! Show.
Okay, so this
what
is a design. It's a historical design from a bed hanging. And
Okay.
it's made by a company, by the Cruel Work Company, and she does all these historic designs. So
This is
I
beautiful.
have had a great time. Had a great time doing that. So that was my big COVID
I
project.
love the colors. Now, will you frame it or make it in?
I think because it's such a weird big size, I think I'm gonna make it a wall hanging. And
Oh,
just real quick, because I know we're almost out of time, and I'm so proud.
oh my gosh, let me see. What is it?
I love vintage. I love vintage. So
Did you?
I found this pattern. It's a Colonial Williamsburg. Do you know Colonial Williamsburg?
Yep. Yep.
A 1970s pattern.
It
And
it's very 70s. I
I
love.
know, right? It's kind of historic, but 70s.
Yeah.
So I did it, and then I just got it back from the finisher today. It took 6 months to finish the pillow.
This is
So,
amazing. I was gonna
so
ask
anyway,
about the first one was the first one to be a pillow, but oh, this is so
yeah.
nice.
So anyway, that's so I had to do show and tell because apparently instead of writing, I've been doing a lot of stitching.
I love it. Well, you'll have to somehow work that into one of your characters in your books.
I think I probably will.
The
I
last,
think
the last thing I want to ask you, do you name your characters after people you know? Where do you get all the names for all your characters?
oh gosh, I spend a lot of time, well, trying not to name them the same names of other people naming in books I read.
Right, right.
You know, that's hard. But I spend a lot of time on baby name sites
Yep.
and social security naming names, historical names, because, you know, you want something unique.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, I'll go into the European, you know, list too. Just, you know, to try to find a name that suits the character.
Was Kimber Hannon a tough name to come up with?
You know, Kimber just sort of showed up. I I don't, you know, I don't even, I mean, there's like Kimber is a weapons manufacturer.
I love it. I love it.
But I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you know, I mean, it's and Hannon, you know, there's a writer named Irene Hannon whom I like very much, and that seemed to work. So,
I love it. I'm always fascinated by the process and, the journey that you all take. It truly is pretty cool. And I wish that more people would, that we would have more of an opportunity to sit with authors. And I suppose for that we can thank technology to get to kind of hang out and go behind the scenes in what it takes to write a book. But The Stranger Inside, I purposely did not talk too much about the plot because we don't want to give it away. But
totally
it's
fine.
so good. It's stayed with me and will stay with me for a really long time. And now, thank you very much because I'm also a little more paranoid than I was.
Oh, come on. I just actually just revealed your paranoia you already had, right?
That's it. That's it. That is it. You only uncovered what was already there.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
I hope that we can definitely talk again. I want you
I
to
would love to.
we'll stay in touch. I was just sitting here thinking we need to do some fun Zoom with a bunch of you guys, JT and you,
Uh,
and do like
that's great.
a real fun round table just to
Mhm.
share with all your fans would be really fun. And I just want to say thank you. I'm excited for all the stuff that you have to come. And don't be so hard on yourself.
Okay.
It's hard not to be because I get told that too. But you know what? Things that are amazing take time. Time.
It's true. And we're all going through a weird time, you know.
Weird.
And I do have half a book written. So with my office hours, I think I'll get it out there.
I haven't even switched my laundry from my washer to my dryer. You've written half a book. So I think you are winning.
I love it. I love it. But this has been so fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I am going to, I'm going to say bye, but we're going to say bye to you right now. Thank you
Okay.
so very much for watching. And where can people find you?
They can find me at laurabenedict.com and on Facebook primarily. I'm occasionally on Instagram and Twitter.
But her husband has the password, so she's not there all the time. And
Those-
that's okay. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you. Bye.